much. Dr. Stanfield, before we start this side session, I want to remind you that everything you say to me is confidential. So really and truly, don't be concerned. If there's anything that you've got down there that you'd like to tell me about, I promise you I'll not disclose it to Clive unless you give me a mandate. So let's try and just understand, help me to understand what the cause of this problem is. Okay?
I'm happy about that, and I will cooperate fully with that.
Okay,
yes.
thank you very much. What is your reaction to what you heard Clive say in the opening statement?
Alan, it sounds like it's all about money to Clive. From my side, it was all about people. It was all about pain. It was all about sports medicine. It was all about realizing a dream and a passion, which I had, but I couldn't afford to get there. Doctors are notoriously poor business people, for the very reason that we don't think about the money before we think about the emergency or the individual or his situation.
You did mention in your opening statement that you had this dream of a sports clinic. Tell me about that.
I've wanted to assist and to nurture athletes in the Western Cape. It's a very, very cost intensive, and one of the first things that I would have needed to do was to have treated young athletes who have overcommitted themselves or overstrained themselves. They've tried to do the 100 meters in the shortest amount of time, and injuries to the back and neck are extremely common in young athletes. So to put the bedrock of my dream in place, I wanted to have an ability to cure their pain, to rebuild those muscles, and to regroup them into a better athlete.
I see. How long have you had that dream?
Oh gosh, as long as I can remember.
Really?
That's been what I've always wanted to do.
Help me to understand how it was that you were not able in the past, despite this passion that you have for sports-related medicine, not able to implement that before this occasion, this opportunity arose.
I actually didn't have the working capital to do it. I didn't have a building. I couldn't acquire machinery. We don't have the technology in this country. It needs to be brought in from Europe or Canada or the States. So this was like a dream come true for me. Very happily, the other practitioners who were going to join me decided not to go. So this was all mine. It was all my dream. I could run it the way that I wanted to.
You mentioned other practitioners. Tell me about the other practitioners.
There were 7 or 8 other practitioners who shared the dream. But I think maybe they looked at the proposal, because we did get a written proposal from Clive. Maybe they looked at it with a bit more detail than I did. Maybe they saw the kind of deliberate stumbling blocks which might have been introduced. I wish I could remember what was written in the proposal, because I didn't take much notice about it. I just wanted to get in there and do the work and fix the people and take away their pain. And that's why I'm so upset about it.
A little bit about your experience in business-related matters over the years.
I've run private practices, never done particularly well.
Tell me about the business itself. Help me to understand a little bit about this neck and backache business and what it was that ultimately created the problems that arose.
The machinery, Alan, is cost intensive. It's R1 million worth of machinery without all the import taxes and the VAT and all of that. I mean, we just couldn't have done that.
Tell me a little bit about the financial administration of the business. You've indicated that, if I understand you correctly, you've indicated that Sue really controlled that side of the business.
Yeah, and well, I mean, she really was. She was the bookkeeper that I always wanted.
Did she come with you from your practice? Did you appoint her, or how was she associated with the business?
No. She had a bit of a fling with Clive.
I see.
And she kind of came along kind of with him. But she was very good. And I took her at face value, and she did the practice proud.
Tell me a little bit about Clive. You mentioned that he had been a patient of yours for a
Yeah, I
long
mean, Clive
time.
was a just run-of-the-mill guy. Fixed him up when he was a younger fellow, his warts, his sprains, aches, pains, love lives, whatever. I was his family practitioner. And then he kind of just moved out of our circles and became a big, hot-shot business person, as I'm quite sure you've seen. I mean, you can see he's greedy. You can see that he's nasty. You can see that he's avaricious. He just wants money. And yeah, that's from that side. I continue to be his family practitioner.
Mm-hmm. He's an accountant by profession.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And when Medex was before you became involved, do I understand the position correctly that he ran the business himself,
yes,
with Sue as the bookkeeper?
I believe that is correct.
So in effect, what you're explaining to me is that Clive couldn't actually run that business because he wasn't a qualified doctor.
Yeah, he was precluded from running it. And the HPCSA, I would imagine, were about to hand him over to the police.
And that's the reason he came to you in the
Yes.
first place and asked you to take over the business.
Yes, and at that stage we had this wonderful relationship, of a caring relationship.
All right. And as I understand the position, you were renting the facilities from him.
Yes.
And paying him a monthly rental for that.
That's correct, yes.
And I've seen his claim. The claim is because the rentals were in arrear. In an
Yes,
amount
that's right.
of about 350,000 rand.
I give or take, yeah.
Yeah. Explain to me how that happened. What went wrong?
Well, I think Clive really wanted very much to get his pound of flesh out of his investment. So he was running this at about 35,000 rand a month of rent, which was inordinately high.
I think I understand a little bit better what the situation is. You mentioned something about Sue getting a restraining order. Again, tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I just know that she just indicated that there was a restraining order against Clive.
What was it that really sparked the summons that Clive has issued against you for the 350,000 rand? I mean, was this the first time you were in arrears? Had you been in arrears before?
No, I mean, I had been in arrears literally from month one. And he would always kind of just advance some extra money so that I could pay the staff salaries, etc.
Okay. And what happened this time?
I think what happened here, because we had a meeting which he called, indicating that things were getting a bit grave. And then when he saw Sue, he went completely ballistic. Strange, I mean, from love to hate, but that's in essence, I believe, what threw this all off the rails.
You've explained to me that Clive was quite tolerant about rentals.
Yeah.
And you've also explained to me that Clive actually called for the meeting to come and discuss the arrear rentals with you.
Mm.
And you've also explained that your feeling is that meeting was the turning point, in the sense that after the meeting he issued summons against you.
Yeah.
But what I don't understand is what went wrong at the meeting. What happened at that meeting that resulted in him issuing a summons? I mean, if he came to talk to you about the arrear rental, he'd been fairly lenient.
He just lost it.
What happened? Give me some of the detail of what happened.
He just lost it in the meeting. The meeting wasn't particularly long. He realized that Sue was doing the books for me. He hadn't obviously seen her for a while. And then the meeting just degenerated into a slanging match. Sue had kind of assured me that from when we initially all got together, that he could never do this and he would never do this, that nothing could actually happen to me in my personal capacity or in the little PDY Limited that I put together. She basically said she can clearly remember. I wish that I could remember, but she said she could clearly remember that he wouldn't ever call up the loan, so to speak.
I see. And was this mentioned at the meeting?
Yeah, absolutely. And he denied it, and then it was a he said, she said in the meeting, and then there was this huge blow up, and he walked out.
So there was some kind of an argument, if I understand
Yes.
you correctly, between him and Sue.
Well, all three of us, because I was defending Sue's ability to do my books,
I see.
and he was saying, well, if that was such good bookkeeping, why aren't we seeing any money?
Okay. And the next thing that happened, if I understand you correctly, is that you then got a summons from his attorney.
I mean, out of the blue.
Since then, have you spoken to him again?
No.
Been no communication?
No. until we decided to maybe sort this out.
I see.
He's been refractory. He doesn't want to answer telephone calls, and he just wants his money. And I haven't got it.
Where do you see this ending, this dispute that you have with Clive?
I don't know. I just want to give this all up and go back to practice. I've been burnt so badly now.
What is your financial position?
It's not good, Alan. It's not good at all.
Now, we all think doctors earn a lot of money, but
yeah, I think the intelligent ones go into management, but from a day-to-day private practice, costs of 65% of my turnover goes to just paying tax and keeping practice running. So from that side, it's not good at all.
No, I follow. You mentioned to me that you'd been Clive's doctor for a long time.
Yes.
How long would that have been?
Oh, just at least 10 years.
Tell me about your relationship with him during that time.
I first met him when he was kind of in his late teenage years. Obviously, I can't tell you much about what he was doing because that's pretty confidential between him and I. But let's just say that he wasn't out of the top drawer. Should we say that?
So he grew up in front of you?
Yeah, he grew up in front of me, but maybe I won't amplify that.
But he's an astute businessman.
Well, yeah, he's an astute businessman.
Yeah. You feel that he's abused that, but you do see him as being an astute businessman.
Yes, I think that he is a successful businessman. I don't know if one would call him astute. Certainly wouldn't call him honest.
Okay. I understand that's your perception at this point in time. All right, Dr. Stanfield, thank you very much. Is there anything else that you'd like to tell me in the side session that could be important for me to understand in order to...
I think you should just tell him how upset I am. Tell him how I'm not sleeping at night. Tell him that I really did this with the best of good intentions. And this has all gone pear-shaped, and just tell him I really am sad, because we've got a long-standing history between us. Let him know how disappointed and how saddened I am.
Okay, I want to make a careful note of that because I don't want to breach the undertaking of confidentiality that I gave you. So you would really like me, if I can summarize that, to communicate to him how this dispute makes you feel.
Absolutely. It makes me feel sick to my stomach. I'm not sleeping at night. It's interfering with my personal life. I would just like this all to go away.
Okay, I've made a note of all of that. It may be advisable for me perhaps not to tell him all of this in one go, or not to tell him this immediately.
Right.
Would you give me a mandate and leave it in my hands to decide whether or not I should communicate this to him, and if so, at what stage of the proceedings? You
can also tell him I want to just get on with my life as a family practitioner with special interest in sports medicine. And this is really just, it's counterproductive.
Okay, I've made a note of that. Again, you'll leave it in my hands to decide if and when I do communicate that to him.
Thanks.
Good. Dr. Stanfield, thank you very much. This has really been very useful, and I've got a good insight and understanding of the problem as you view it. This stage has really been exploratory. What we're going to do next time I see you, is we're going to try and focus on solutions. What I'd like you to do, if you don't mind, in the time that you're now going to have whilst I speak to Clive, is to sit down and make a list of possible solutions that you think would be satisfactory to you, and try and be inventive. Don't just, if you think that's the only way. You've told me that you really want nothing more to do with this and you'd like to end it, but be inventive and try and think of as many possible solutions to this dilemma as you can. And then I'm going to first have an exploratory session with Clive, and then I'm going to ask him to do the same thing, so that when I meet with you again, we can perhaps analyze some of the potential solutions that you think there are, in view of what my understanding of Clive's understanding of the problem.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you. Thanks for your time.
Thanks very much. I'll just have one last question for you, whilst I think of it. You mentioned that you left the bookkeeping of this enterprise in Sue's hands.
Capable hands, yeah.
Do you have any training in accounting or bookkeeping of your own?
I can feel when my practice is working.
Okay.
I know
Okay.
when it's working, and my practice is running well.
Okay.
I don't understand figures.
Okay.
I absolutely don't.
Okay. And did you ever, as far as the numbers are concerned, did you ever have anybody look at the numbers that Sue was giving you as the bookkeeper of the business?
No,
any outside expert advice on that?
We didn't, and
Not.
we hadn't come up to the
Okay.
entire period for an audit, so
Okay.
I would imagine when the audit comes through,
Okay.
it will be clean. I've
Okay.
certainly not done anything wrong in that practice except worked very hard.
All right. Doctor, thank you very much. Thanks a lot for your time. And I'll call you again. As I mentioned in the opening, the time that I spend with Clive might feel longer than what you would expect. Don't make any conclusions from that. It's just that I will be doing the same with him as I've done with you. Maybe it takes a little bit longer
That's fine.
or not. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, Alan.
Hi, Clive. Everything went all right during the break?
Yeah, no, everything went fine. Thank you.
Clive, just before we start, just a reminder that everything you tell me now is confidential.
Okay.
And I won't be taking anything back, I promise you that, without your express permission.
So you're not going to tell me anything that...
Nothing at all,
that-
other than
that
what
Joe
he's
told you.
mandated to do. What's your take on what Dr. Stanfield said in the opening?
You know, I felt insulted when he said I was being dishonest or had been dishonest.
I could sense that.
Yes, I'm a businessman and integrity is very important to me. But you know, I don't want to talk about that stuff now. I want to really talk, to just tell you a bit more about where I come from. And I've always had problems with my back. Played a lot of tennis when I was a younger man, and then I ended up in Canada and I discovered this incredible equipment. I was treated for backache by a group of Canadian doctors. And it was, for me, a miracle cure. It changed my life. I came back to South Africa. I thought I'd bring this miracle cure to South Africa.
Sorry to interrupt you for a second. This, what you call miracle cure, this is, help me to understand that.
It's a company called Medex
Yes.
that developed this system. It works in pulses that actually helps back problems. I don't know how it works technically. You know, I just know that it works.
Is it a fairly well-known brand?
It's well-known internationally. It was developed 10 years ago by a group of Canadians, and it's very well-known internationally. For some other reason, it hasn't reached Africa and South Africa yet. I saw, and I still do see huge potential in this equipment. I've got the franchise for it for South Africa, and I could very easily get it into the rest of Africa as well.
Is this clinic the first one?
This is the first one that I opened, which
I
I had then a problem with HBC. who said to me that I needed to be a doctor to run it. That was the beginning of all my troubles, because that meant that I needed to call in somebody like Joe, who was a friend, and who I had a long relationship with. I really trusted him, and the idea was that he would then take over the clinic, and he would run the clinic. And that I would lease the clinic to him. I would recover my investment that way. So it was all, as far as I was concerned, was going to work out very well. It's a good business deal. It's good for him. There's fat on both sides, for him and for me. But it's been a terrible disappointment. I must tell you that it has really been such a disappointment.
I'm very sorry to hear that. What was your vision for the business?
My vision was, I've got a number of different businesses, and I'm always looking for ideas, always looking to innovate, to get to take products to the market. It's something that really excites me, because I have a personal story to tell about it. I was very, very passionate about this business in particular, probably more than the other businesses. Mm-hmm. You must remember that for somebody, you probably would know, for somebody that suffered from bad backache, you wake up in the morning, you don't feel like getting up. Yeah. It was solved. It was resolved. I'm a bit worried now that that this business is in trouble. That I wouldn't be able to get help here in South Africa. I would have to fly all the way to Canada if my back problems flare up again. So this is something that I feel very strongly about.
Your claim is for a rear rental,
Yes.
and it's quite a substantial sum
Yes.
of money. I mean, it's 350,000 rand. That must have been rear rentals accumulated over an extensive period.
Yes.
What was your attitude when the rentals fell into arrear initially?
Well, initially, I mean, of course, because I'm a businessman, I want solutions. I don't want to actually, I don't actually like to fight cases necessarily. I prefer solutions. So initially, I contacted Joe, and I said to him I want a meeting with him, and that's actually where I must tell you where I mean, there was a woman who arrived there who shouldn't have been there. I was very, very angry to discover that. I'm sure he told you about her. I mean, her name is Sue. So I did really initially want to resolve the problem. Arrived at the meeting to discuss the rear rentals. Let me just take you back a little bit. Before that meeting with Sue happened, I had a meeting with him earlier on. It was just with him. And I actually agreed to forward some more money to him to help this company to pay salaries. It was clear to me at that stage already that he was not going to be able to do it all by himself. So that was my first meeting with him. That meeting didn't go so badly. I thought things would be resolved at that meeting. But we had a subsequent meeting, and this is the meeting that I'm angry about, because at the subsequent meeting, it was also a discussion about why always the shortfall? Why is he not able to pay the full rental? What's going on? So I called a meeting, and there was, instead of it just being a meeting between two friends, there was another person.
That's the Sue that you mentioned.
Sue, that used to work for me and stole money from me, and there she's sitting, and I'm finding myself in this incredible, weird situation to be sitting and negotiating with somebody who stole money from me. I was absolutely livid.
What was Sue's role in the business?
Sue helped with the bookkeeping, but the equipment does all the work. It's all she really had. She really had to do was just to use equipment. There was no other real skills that were required. She could actually work with that. She did, in fact, help with that as well. The equipment is like the doctor, really. It solves the problem for the patient. You don't need input from a doctor. As you know, I ran the clinic very successfully before Dr. Stanfield. In fact, the HBC, I think they're full of nonsense. They should have allowed me to continue running this business.
Tell me a little bit more about your relationship with Sue.
My relationship with Sue was very difficult. We had a romantic relationship. It was something which, I employed her, and we started having a relationship, and it was just, she's an awful woman. She really is. She, as far as I'm concerned, she claims that I assaulted her. She got some protection order against me, and we had a few very, very difficult arguments. And I acknowledge that once I did push her, but I did not assault her the way that she says I did.
Her presence at this meeting that you went to, can I just take a step back? You went to the meeting, if I understand you correctly, to try and find a solution to the problem. What solution did you have in mind at that point in time?
At that point in time, all I wanted to find out why is the business that I gave him that was successful not successful anymore. What was he doing wrong? And because I realized I can't carry on bailing him out and bailing him out. So this was in a way, I wanted to help the man. He was a friend of mine.
At that point in time,
it's so hard. It's harder to forgive a friend than to forgive an enemy. I am so angry. I'm angry.
At that point in time, you say you really wanted to help him. What did you have in mind?
I thought that what we could do is we could, I could help him in the business. I could help him run the business. I could work out a business plan for him. I could, I came there with the best of intentions. To walk into that meeting with Sue sitting there was like, red flag to a bull.
Was something said at that meeting that sparked off your anger?
There was actually just what really angered me is when she said that I said that he would not be personally liable for any of the debts, and that was something that really angered me. He was actually she was being dishonest as far as I'm concerned.
I see.
So
tell me you mentioned in the opening, I can't remember if it was you or Dr. Stanfield, but you have been a patient of his for many years.
Absolutely. I have.
What's your feeling about him as a person?
My feelings is that there's him before Sue and him after Sue. before, this. He and I had a fallout. We had a good relationship, a very good relationship. We played golf together. We really had a good relationship, and I trusted him as my doctor, as my family doctor.
And you took this business proposition to him.
And I
as
took
well.
the business proposition to him. But I can't allow friendship to come into business here. This is a business deal. I can't just throw away 350,000 rand. He needs to pay me the money. Or repay me the money, or pay me the full sum, or make an arrangement with me to pay me off. I can't see any other solution here.
Do you have any knowledge of his financial position?
I think it must be pretty bad. I think he's clearly not able to run this business in such a way that it's profitable enough. Because I've had to bail him out once. I waived rental for the first few months as well. So I feel I've really come to the party. I've helped him. I've done what I can, and I'm just not. I'm not seeing. I'm not. As I say, I mean.
Right. Well, I know you've issued summons, and I must commend your attorney for suggesting mediation to you, because in my experience, it's a very good way to go, and normally brings about a successful outcome. But I can also understand why you were unhappy about what happened at that meeting, but. What I'd like you just to reflect on is what will happen if you can't arrive at some workable solution with Dr. Stanfield today. And what I'd like to establish is whether you've thought that process through.
I have, and I'm aware my attorney has explained to me how much it will cost. And it's not a pretty picture. Especially if Dr. Stanford is going to be defending this matter, that it's could cost me a lot of money. So I'm not very keen on litigation. Although I don't want you to say that to him.
No, I definitely won't. I think your attorney's advised you very well, if I may say so, because given the extent of your claim and the nature of the problem that has arisen here, I think there's probably other solutions, better solutions than litigating. What we're going to do now, Clive, is I'm going to take a break, and then I'm going to have another side session with Dr. Stanfield quickly. But in the meantime, what I would like you to do is think of possible solutions and try and think out of the box. We know that litigation is one way to go, and we've canvassed where that would probably take you. You'd probably end up losing more than what you'd be able to recover. So apply your mind to possible solutions, possible ways that you think one could try and solve the problem in a manner that is satisfactory to you, and that might also be attractive to the doctor. What I'd like to tell you is that I do have a mandate from him to communicate to you how this dispute has made him feel, and it's as bad. He explained to me that he is not sleeping at night, and that this is having a huge impact on his personal life and his personal relationships, and he really is desperate to put this behind him. He wants to get it over with. Is there anything that you would like me to take back to him?
Yes. I mean, I'm also finding this very unpleasant, and I just think that the allegations of dishonesty is something that he needs to. I don't know if it's apologize, but he needs to let go of those allegations and stop making those allegations against me. For me to, and he needs to understand that there's no possibility with Sue around. And what you can also tell him is that if it is possible, then I would also prefer reconciliation between us.
Okay. A reconciliation in the sense of a return to the relationship that you had with him before.
Personal and business.
Yeah. Okay. I'll mention that to him. He was your doctor for a long time. Your perception of him as a human being and as a person.
Oh, I must admit, he's not a bad guy. He's a good man.
He's a good man.
Yeah, I know. He's a good man. I don't know what had gotten into him though.
Would you have any objection if I took that back to him? That
Yeah,
your
you can.
perception is that he's a good man. I think that might be helpful.
Well,
This dispute
okay.
aside.
Okay. No, you can say that to him, that, and I don't. Yeah, you can say.
Well, perhaps let me put it on this basis, that if I think it's appropriate at a given moment,
You can
I
take it
mandate
across.
it from you
Yes.
to take across. I won't necessarily do it, but
Mm.
I have a mandate from you if needs be.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much. I
Thank you.
appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Alan.
Clive.
Okay.